you guys all for having me today. It's a real privilege and an honor for me to be able to be here and share my story with all of you. I would like to thank my family and my girlfriend for all being here with me today. Without them, none of this would be possible in the first place. So Dan briefly mentioned it. I was 17 years old and I had a spinal cord injury at the beach. Before that, I was an athlete. I was playing football. I had lots of friends. I enjoyed going to school. I enjoyed life. Everything I had going on for me it just felt like a great time. And one day, me and 3 of my friends decided to go out to Bodega Bay. It was a beautiful day out. Sun's out, 75 degrees out at the coast, and decided to go out for a swim. And something I've done 100 times before, I just ran out into the water, kind of dove into a wave, not even a full-on dive, just tried to glide into it. And the wave pushed me down, and I hit the back of my head on the bottom of the ocean floor. And from that moment forward, I was unable to move anything from the neck down. I was face down in the water, didn't know if I was going to make it out until my friend luckily saw me laying there, and he ran in, pulled me out, got me to the beach, and we at least were able to move on from there. A lot of lucky things happened for me that day. For starters, with my friend pulling me out, but second, there was an off-duty firefighter and EMT who just happened to be walking his dog on the beach that day and carried his radio with him and was able to call in the call because there was no cell service on the beach. And we were able to get Henry 1 helicopter onto the beach within 20 minutes to airlift me to Memorial Hospital. Once I got to Memorial Hospital, I met my mom and dad there. It was obviously an emotional time. Didn't really know what was going on. Didn't know exactly why I wasn't able to move my body, but we had no choice but to just keep moving forward, do what the doctors told us, and within an hour I was in surgery. My surgeon is one of the better surgeons in Northern California for neurology, head and neck, and the only reason he was at the hospital that day was because his 2-year-old daughter was in the hospital with pneumonia, and once he saw the call, he got his stuff together and was willing to do the surgery for me. Otherwise, I probably would have had been airlifted again to Oakland to get the surgery. So even with all that going on, I just had lots of people watching over me, lots of things going in my favor that day, that without that happening, my injury could have even been worse than it already is. I woke up the next day. I had a ventilator tube in my throat. I was unable to move anything below my neck still. Couldn't speak and just had no idea what was going on. In order to communicate, my mom had to hold a letter chart in front of me where she would move her finger across each letter and I'd have to nod to spell out words to say, can I have the TV turned on, or something like that. The doctor came in, told me that I had suffered a spinal cord injury, but that my spinal cord was still intact, but that I had damaged it significantly. There was a lot of bruising and swelling, and that he could not tell me whether or not I would regain any function below my injury site, below the neck. Within a couple of days, I began to be able to move my arms a little bit. I started to regain some feeling into my chest and my stomach area, and started to feel, a little bit of hope. I was scared. I didn't really know what to do. My entire life I'd been active, I'd been an athlete. Moving around was, what made me who I was. And in an instant, I was no longer able to do that. Within 2 weeks, I had been moved to Santa Clara Valley Medical Center. It's a rehab facility in San Jose that specializes in spinal cord injuries. And from the moment I got there, they got me on a big physical therapy regimen. I was doing physical therapy 8 or 9 hours a day. I was doing occupational therapy and pretty much any time that I wasn't asleep, I was trying to do something that would help my recovery and make my life easier. I became obsessed with looking for anything that could possibly help me, whether it be therapy at the rehab center, outside therapies. I'll get into that a little bit more later. But my entire life became, what do I need to do next to ensure that I make the best recovery I possibly can? I had lots of visitors, both at Memorial Hospital and Santa Clara Valley Medical Center. I felt the love and support from the community, from my family, from my friends, from the very beginning. The security guard at Memorial Hospital even ran out of name tags because I had so many people coming in to see me. That support gave me the motivation that I feel I needed, because I knew I wasn't just doing it for myself. I had so many people that were behind me and wanted to see me succeed. Once I left Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, I still was obsessed with trying to find any possible way to improve my recovery. I started working out with Brian Langerman and his wife Kathleen 6 or 7 days a week for up to 4 or 5 hours at a time each day. I did an adapted PE class at the Santa Rosa Junior College 2 days a week. I would do outpatient therapy at Memorial Hospital. I would go to Sonoma for a laser therapy on my neck to try to reduce swelling in my spinal cord. Pretty much anything that I could get my hands on, I was looking forward to doing so. There was nothing more important at the time than doing everything I possibly could to ensure that I was moving forward and not just accepting the fact that this was going to be my new reality. I also went back to school to finish my senior year. I started back in, my injury was in September, and by January I was back going to school at Annalee, and I was able to graduate on time with my class. Being able to be there with my friends every day was something that I can't even put words to describe how important that was to me, to have that kind of sense of normalcy again. It gave me, a little break from when I was doing physical therapy to just kind of be a kid again, but it really allowed me to take that time, enjoy my time at school, and then go back and give 100% to what I was doing with my physical therapy. Later that summer, we started looking into alternative procedures and treatments that I could get done to potentially help repair the nerve damage in my neck. We listened to a podcast that talked about a stem cell facility in Panama. It was run by a US doctor, but the United States just hasn't been able to get FDA approval on stem cell treatments for spinal cord injuries and other nerve damage yet. They're in clinical trials, but in Panama, they were able to do whatever treatments were necessary without any legal restrictions. So we applied there. I initially got accepted into their program, and then a couple of months went by where we hadn't heard anything. So we reached out a couple of times, still hadn't heard anything. And then about 2 weeks after we had reached out for the last time, we got an email saying that I had been denied. And that was pretty tough to hear. I tried not to get my hopes up that this was going to be, the next step for me. But, when an opportunity like that comes across, you're always thinking about, okay, this could potentially be the thing that I need. This could be the thing that gets me over this next hurdle. So I was pretty disappointed, but I knew I couldn't let that, stop me. There was always going to be another opportunity, so I went home and started researching for new stem cell clinics that I could potentially attend. And I came across one in Thailand. Being denied from Panama was probably the best thing that could have happened, because this clinic in Thailand was so much more responsive. The treatment just seemed to be so much better. They were so much more descriptive in what they were going to be doing. And I have been there 3 times, most recently last March. And before I went the first time, I was still in a motorized wheelchair where all I had to do was push a joystick to move around. And after my first treatment there, I started to be able to push myself in my manual wheelchair, which just gave me a more sense of independence. I was physically doing the work to get me around instead of 100% relying on this big machine to move me around. The people in Thailand were amazing. All the doctors, all the nurses, all super supportive, super nice, making sure I had everything that I could possibly need while I was there. And it was incredible, the experience. The food was also pretty good. So lots of fried rice. But the biggest thing that I took away from that was the fact that I didn't give up after being denied from Panama. There have been lots of times where, the thought of just accepting this is what my reality is, have come up, and you just can't accept something that you're not ready to live with. You got to keep moving forward. You got to keep looking for new opportunities, and that's what Thailand brought to me. After I got back from Thailand the second time in 2019, later that summer was when I started coaching for Annalee High School's football team. I started out as the assistant receivers coach for the JV team. I did that for a year. The next year I was the offensive coordinator for the JV team. And then the following 2 years after that, I've been the head JV coach. The support that's been given to me from that program, from the athletes, from the parents, from the school has been amazing. It's been very beneficial for me, not just mentally, having something that I love to do, having something that I know that I can be good at, but physically as well. I'm out there, I'm moving around, I'm pushing my wheelchair probably 2 or 3 miles every day at practice, and I'm not even really realizing that I'm doing it. It's more physical therapy for me that it's fun, and it's something that I can do very well. The kids are all amazing. When I first started, I wasn't sure, how I would be received as a coach. I tried to think about how I would feel when I was playing if, I came in, had a coach that looked like me, and what kind of impact that would have on me. But from the very beginning, I just felt accepted. I felt like that was where I was supposed to be. I've also started going to school again. In August of 2020, I started my associate's degree in business administration, and then have moved into a bachelor's degree in accounting. I'm hoping to get a master's degree in taxation following my graduation from getting a bachelor's degree, and then becoming a licensed CPA after that. When I had to go get an MRI to go to Thailand, I went and saw my neurosurgeon after we had gotten that done to discuss, how my spinal cord was looking, if any progress had been made. And what he told me that day was he couldn't believe, he didn't even need to see the MRI of my spinal cord. Just seeing me, he couldn't believe where I was physically based on what my injury was. He told me that every other person with the injury I had is paralyzed from the neck down on a ventilator for the rest of their life. And I am able to, on my own, push myself around in my wheelchair, feed myself, do all kinds of things independently that I'm still working on every day. And that kind of hit me pretty hard, that I had already exceeded expectations, and it just made me want to continue on that track. I'm not ready to say that I'm finished. I don't think I'll ever be ready to say that I'm finished until I can stand up here and walk back to my seat. what I've learned along the way and the message that I want to try to impress upon everyone that I talk to now is that your disability is not what defines who you are. It's your ability and what you do with it. I could have, through all these different things, coaching, going back to school, physical therapy said, no, it's too hard. My disability makes things too hard. I can't do it. But instead, I try to focus on what I am able to do, build off that, keep moving forward, and allow myself to live my life the fullest to my ability. Just because I have to do things a little bit differently now than I originally had thought so, or had been able to do in the past, doesn't mean that I can't still accomplish everything that I want to in life. And that goes for everybody. Okay? Not everyone has a disability like mine, but everyone goes through hard times. Everyone has, difficulties that they have to get through. And it's really important that you focus on what you are able to do, what you can do to be able to get past those difficulties, instead of focusing on what you can't. And staying positive, having everyone in my life that keeps me positive, everyone that brings that positive influence, even when I'm having a bad day, is instrumental. You have to surround yourself with those people. You have to keep that mindset. You have to just keep moving forward every single day and not allow yourself to give up. And that's my story.
We have a little time for questions. Okay, Frank first. Mike, hang on a second. Jim.
Are you still videoing?
Coming right over, Frank. Jacksonville Jaguars?
I liked the animal when I was little, and up until this year, pretty much regretted the decision ever since.
Okay, Les.
Carson, that was awesome. Thanks for sharing us with us. Carson, I'll share some information with you, then I have a question. I didn't know you were a coach, and that's awesome. Is there ever a time when maybe you need some additional supplies, materials, or equipment for the JV or for yourself as a coach?
We are looking into potentially building a ramp to the press box. We've been working with Mia and Chris Meredith on that. So I'm sure we could look for anything.
That's great. So in our club, every year we have community grants, and I think they go up to about $5,000. So the next year, or and within the next year, when we have that funding cycle again, would you like us to contact you and help you put together a grant to help you do your coaching at Antelope?
That would be awesome, yeah.
All right, I'll get in touch with you and we'll do it.
Thank you.
Hi, Andy.
Hi, Les.
John. Carson, has anybody done any kind of media outlet on your story? Has anybody approached you to do a documentary, anything news?
We have done like newspaper articles, and I was on the news a few times directly following my injury, but it's been quite some time, yeah.
There's a podcast.
Well, yes, there's a podcast. It's called the People Doing Good podcast by Mariah Volk and Jerry Robinson. I did that in, I believe, January of 2020.
Carson, thank you again for your program. And in these years, besides all the friends that you had before and continue to be your friends, I'm sure through all the ins and outs of hospitals and other rehabs and so forth, you've connected with others who have similar, or at least something parallel in terms of experience. Could you share, is there one person that either made a big impact on you, or you think maybe you had a big impact on that person?
I mean, yes, there's plenty of people, especially when I was in San Jose. It was a rehab facility for people who had all shared similar experiences to me. There was one guy who came in when I was in Memorial Hospital. He had a very similar injury to me. He was in Hawaii, and he walked through the doors on his own. And that had a huge impact on me. Just gave me the realization that what I wanted to do was possible, and that as long as I kept working hard, I wasn't going to let anything stop me from achieving what he had done as well.
Brian?
What I'd like to say is probably the most important thing I've seen, because I see Carson 6 days a week and still do, and it's the teamwork that his family provides him. He has the most amazing parents. His father just supports him in every way, financially, and makes sure he gets what he wants. His mother is so wonderful for their teamwork and how they work together and how hard she works all the time. Loves him so much. Just being able to watch that over the years has changed my life. That's it.
Thank you, Brian. Robin?
Hi, Carsten. Has anybody talked to you, or have you talked to anybody about something that I think has huge potential for various medical conditions? And I'm talking about stem cells and the research.
So
Can you give us an answer on that?
Yeah, stem cells is what I went to Thailand to receive, and I've had 3 treatments, 3 of them through IV, and then 2 of them into my neck muscles. We're also looking into the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota that is doing stem cell research. There's a new study going on at Northwestern. It's not quite stem cells, they call them dancing molecules. And they're molecules that they're artificial that they get, and they make them dance to mimic the movement of the actual molecules that are in the spinal cord. And then there's also another company called Neuralink, where they would implant a chip into your brain and then also have a device in your spinal cord to allow the chip to send signals to the device and bypass the injury site.
Wow. Any other?
So Northwestern's not stem cells, it's something else.
One follow-up question, if I could.
Sure, Jim.
Carson, I understand you have your vehicle. Is it a Porsche 911 or is it a van?
It's a van.
Carson, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate you sharing. A great fist bump.